Fala galera, sejam muito bem-vindos a mais um episódio do Vamos de Vendas, um podcast criado para conectar visionários como você a um time de vendas de elite. Nesse episódio, a gente extrapolou essa ideia do time de vendas de elite. E aí eu poderia até começar com um Hello Guys, mais do que um Fala Galera, porque a gente vai ter o prazer e a honra de entrevistar um dos maiores especialistas em vendas do mundo. E, claro, já vou deixar aqui alguns atalhos para você que fala inglês e está acompanhando em áudio. Esse episódio vai ser gravado em inglês, então você pode acompanhar da melhor maneira possível. Se você não fala inglês, a gente vai fazer a entrevista em inglês. Eu vou contar daqui a pouco quem é o nosso convidado. E aí você pode ir para o YouTube. No YouTube esse vídeo vai estar legendado e você vai poder acompanhar ele com a maior tranquilidade possível. Eu me chamo Marcelo Pereira, sou professor, consultor e mentor de vendas e agora host desse podcast. E para me ajudar nessa jornada, eu trouxe meu amigo Cassio Lopes.
Obrigado, hein, Marcelo.
Diretor de vendas da Zoho, para nos acompanhar nessa jornada. Se apresente, por favor.
Obrigado, pessoal. É uma honra estar aqui. Não sei se eu posso contar quem são os convidados. Não posso, né?
Ainda não.
E, gente, eu tenho mais de 10 anos em experiência de venda SaaS. Eu sou gerente comercial da Zoho, então quero poder compartilhar com vocês várias técnicas e dicas do que a gente pode aplicar na prática, né? Melhor do que quem está ouvindo é como fazer agora na prática.
Show de bola. E a gente fez um determinado suspense aí no início, porque o autor desse livro mudou o jogo. O trabalho que ele fez e registrou num livro teve, como talvez 2 ou 3 outros na história de vendas, mudou o modo como as pessoas trabalham e o resultado de muitas empresas. O resultado é realmente fantástico e eu estou muito feliz, estou até com o livro dele aqui na capa, para contar para vocês que a gente teve a oportunidade e hoje vai entrevistar Aaron Ross.
Yep.
Thank you for coming, please. I kind of introduced you a little bit, but no one better than you to show us and introduce yourself.
Oh, I don't know. I've known myself so long, I forget what. But a lot of people don't know me. Yeah, as you said, the author, actually 2 books in Brazil. One is Receita Previsível, and the other is Hipercrescimento, right? Hipercrescimento is more of a growth book for, I think, C-levels, founders, entrepreneurs, executives. And the Receita Previsível, more of a sales book for sales executives, sales managers, salespeople. So they're different, but it's all about how to create growth in an engineered way. A lot of the books come from my experience at Salesforce.com in the United States when it was a very small company, 150 people, and creating a whole new sales system there to help them drive faster growth, almost doubling their growth. And then working with companies for a lot of years after leaving Salesforce.com, learning when do they grow, when do they not grow, what are the problems that lots of them struggle with. What I found too, it's easy to make a list of 100 things you need to do to grow, or sometimes you don't even know what to do. I think it's hard to say, hey, what's the 1 or 2 or 3 things that are the most important for us to focus on to grow? So that's really where I try to focus on the few key things that'll make the biggest difference. And about me, I live in Scotland now, got 10 kids, love coming to Brazil. I've probably been here 10 or 15 times for events, and just have the friendliest people here of anywhere I've been.
Yeah, no, that's great. And we're not going to get too much into the 10 kids piece that you talked because I was curious about this, but no way, I have 2 and it's a lot of work. So going to the sales side of it, when I said that the books change the way we think about sales and work, it's because, I read probably all the books that are important books about sales out there, and there's a few that change the perspective of the work that we do and also how we do. This thing of specialized people doing specific part of the work, it gets such a more intense and such a possibility of higher returns and results. That's the perspective I say. But it was in 2011 when the book first came out.
Yep.
And then Hipercrescimento came in 2018.
Yep. Something like 16, 17, 18.
Yeah, around. And after that, a lot of things changed. It's not a long time, but it was not so much data out there. It was not so much AI, let's say. How these things impacted the methodology and what you were seeing, how it's getting better, worse, challenging. tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think maybe we should start back and just saying there's maybe the ideas that are relevant from the books, 2 or 3 that I'll just review very shortly, because you mentioned specialization. Again, what that means is having more jobs defined so people do fewer things better. Right? In sales, now it's a lot more common. You've got closers and prospectors, BDRs, inbound lead response, customer success. But 10 years ago, 20 years ago in the past, that was not the way it's done. So the idea of specialization has been incredibly a bigger difference in sales. The books are known for a lot about outbound prospecting, but the actual biggest change was specialization.
Yeah.
And one of the things that changes with that idea is that the more AI there is, the more technology, the busier the world is, the more people need to think about how to specialize, and with deeper specialization, or even sometimes generalization. So it doesn't change the fact that specialization works, because it does in a lot of areas. Being able to do fewer things better. And the harder it gets to decide what to do, the more important that is to specialize people. It's just the jobs may change. Like for example, today, years ago and still today, a lot of times companies say, we want to do outbound prospecting. Once in a while, companies can get salespeople to prospect part-time and it works, but it's pretty rare. So when you have people whose job it is to prospect, it works. I think that's pretty self-evident now. Like your job is to prospect. Yeah. But now it's more common to have other roles involved, like researchers or people who help on the data side, on the researching side, so even more junior people to support the prospectors in what they do. There's more, rev ops. There's more like technology support roles. So there's a lot of ways to take this idea of specialization and adapt it to not only today, but in the years coming, which is usually more deep specialization or rethinking the kinds of jobs we're doing. That's one way. Another big impact of the methodology, I mentioned a lot of the books are about outbound prospecting, the value of that, how to make it predictable. Again, when I was at Salesforce, most of it was through email, right? And before that, it was mostly phone. Before that, direct mail. So all these channels, you don't lose them. Phones still work, email still works. It varies by country and things. But then they added LinkedIn, and then you have social, and then you have X and Y. So you're just adding more and more types of channels that people can receive messages and you can send messages. So that's complicated. And then there's video, there's audio, there's text. And just the complexity gets so overwhelmingly complex as a company or someone who's supposed to prospect, like what do I send to who when? How do I know if it's even working? So that kind of confusion and overwhelm is actually common for everybody nowadays. And so again, this idea of not just specializing what your job is, but also really honing in, not even today, but again in the future, how can you be more and more insightful and aware of who your best customers are, who they are, why they're the best customers, what they feel, what they think. How can you kind of like connect your mind and your heart to them so that when you are looking for them, when you're messaging them, whether it's in video or audio or text, and what channels, you're better able to know how to connect with them where they are. Because otherwise it's just too confusing. There's just too many options. So those are a couple ways that the methodology has changed and will continue to change.
Yeah, you continue to change because the world is changing, the behavior is changing.
It's only going to speed up too.
Yeah, and you mentioned one thing that caught a lot of my attention. You said it's overwhelming. I mean, it's a lot of information out there. And let's say there's AI or there's abundance of content all over. It's just too much.
It's exploding. It's just getting started too with AI.
Yeah, and to me, comparing, let's say, inbound with outbound, and not fair, really a comparison. When you go outbound, you're interrupting the customer in a certain way. And for you to have success, the way I understand, of course, that's a question for you. You need the attention. But how do you grab the attention in a role that, information and content, it's just all over.
Yeah, well, that's a problem for anyone who's doing any kind of lead generation, whether it's marketing, generating inbound leads, or doing outbound, or partners.
Yeah.
So this is it's a business problem, it's a human problem. The actual techniques vary for outbound or inbound. Yeah, well, inbound is not necessarily interrupting people. Like outbound isn't. inbound is great, outbound is great. Companies really need to find the right balance of how to generate leads in ways that fit them. Could be through partners, through marketing, through outbound. It's going to vary company to company. But because of the overwhelming information out there, the choices, the problems, there's not one simple answer that will say, how do you grab their attention? It's like saying, what's the right diet? What's the right eating system for someone? How? I swear. How the F should I know? Because everybody's different. Should I carnivore, vegetarian? Be like, can you go? Not even if I can do blood tests on you, you don't even know. You can only find out through your own experimentation, your own trial and error, and not just through kind of where you live as a big group, like a company, but also down to the individual. So at a team of prospectors, as a team, they might have some templates or techniques that work for them as a team. Maybe it's doing, I would say, like sending videos or audios on LinkedIn, right? Because that's different than just text messages.
Yeah.
But some of the people, it's pretty common. You'll have 2 people who do great. Let's say you have 10 people prospecting. 2 people they do great on social, and the other 8 do the same things and they're horrible. And there's so many reasons why, like their comfort, their confidence, their camera. So there's not a one-size-fits-all. Every person needs to, again, I'd say the basics are, who's my ideal customer? How well do I know them? How well can I, connect with what they want and speak in their language? And then also, what kinds of channels am I most comfortable with and confident in? Writing, recording video, recording audio, going through LinkedIn. So it's kind of finding your own path through this. And again, this is the future. There's only going to be more complexity, more noise. So this is a chance for people to really kind of to develop their own self-awareness around what's going to work for me as a person in this specific company, in this specific market. Because I can't rely on the company to tell me what to do. They can help me, but I can't depend on them to give me every answer, to spoon-feed me how to do this. And this is true for any job, sales,
Absolutely,
prospecting, marketing. This is everything.
You said it's much more personalized, this thing, and I was thinking.
Well, actually, there's 2 words. I wouldn't say personalized. I would say it's more important to add personality. How can you put yourself, add some humanity, some personality into your messages? Okay. You want to target it to the right kinds of people. And maybe you personalize it by saying, oh, I know that you're a director of sales, or you went to some school and so on, or you live in Belo Horizonte. But sometimes that can go wrong, because I actually think it's more important now to put more personality into your message and not feel or read like a robot. So personality, I would say, is better, not that there's any rules, because there's not, better than personalization, if you have to choose one.
Nice.
I would say maybe we can choose both.
Both.
I mean, do you want to be fit or strong? Why can't I have both?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And I was thinking about that because, in your view, how does strong the leadership is good for this? Take more sales, or for sales team? How does this strong impact the sales team, impact the sales? What do you think about?
How does the sales leadership impact the team?
Yeah.
You think more of kind of like a VP, CEO level, or manager, or all of it?
Managers.
Manager. Well, funny enough, today in my talk, I'll have a lot of it's about sales managers and the struggles they're dealing with. Because I think, honestly, that managers in general, and it's not just sales managers, although I think there's even more pressure on sales managers, they are under more pressure than ever because of all the changes in the world. Right? Again, everybody's feeling this, but the managers who are kind of managing people in doing the actual work, and sometimes it might be engineers or salespeople, I think, again, there's high expectations by the company and of themselves. A lot are newer, so it's kind of embarrassing or they're awkward to ask for help because they've got the imposter syndrome, very common.
Yeah.
I think they need more support because there's more complexity. So again, the older model was there's one sales manager with 6, 8, 12 salespeople, right? And they kind of have to do everything. What are the quota? Well, it depends on the size of the company, but set territories or maybe quotas, comp even potentially, hiring, firing, training, coaching, demos, coaching, emails, coaching. It's a long list of things. Maybe even technology. Obviously, bigger companies have more support in some ways, but so I think again the idea is how can you have more support from the company with like specialization or within the team. So sometimes this might be the sales manager saying, I need help. I'm okay saying, look, you know what? My best talents are in coaching demos and hiring and whatever those things are. And I'm not the best. And it's okay, I'm not the best at coaching and writing emails or LinkedIn or these other 5 things. Because there's no manager that can be the best or even great, or it's very rare to be amazing at all these like 15 things you need to do. It's ridiculous. So what are those 5 that you are great at and want to do? What are the 5 you don't want to do, but you kind of need to do them because it's part of no one else can do it? But what are the 5 things that other people would be better if they did it? I think if sales managers and companies were more encouraging of this and rather seeing it as a problem with, they don't say it, but I think people think this like, oh, if you hire even a VP of sales, right? It's the same thing. It's insane to think they can be amazing at all 15 things that a VP of sales needs to do. It's ridiculous. But there's that unspoken expectation. So that's where I would start, which is let's look at these things that you as a sales manager or executive should be doing because you're great at it, the things you need to do because other people aren't, you just need to do them. But what should you not be doing? Like, it's really hard to be great at coaching on emails and coaching on calls and coaching demos, not just the skills, but also the time. Let's get you some help. It might be within the team. Maybe there's on the team, if you have 10 people, one's going to be great at, demos. Like, hey, Bob, what do you think? Like, have us help the team pick out some things they could do to help the team as a whole. Because a lot of people like to do that. Some people don't. But a lot of people enjoy, because, a jobs also can get boring. It could be another way to add some opportunity, some learning, something different for them to take on something like that and help out. Everybody wins, right? So that's in principle. And I did that at Salesforce.com myself. So that's where I would start. Just more support, more teamwork, more openness about, hey, there's no person who's great at everything.
But if I got it right, what the concept that you're bringing now is the same specialization that you saw with sales reps, splitting SDRs, MRRs.
This is another level.
Another level.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, again, salespeople, again, the world is so busy and we feel like there's so many things on our plate because there are. Are there ways, sometimes there are, sometimes not, to kind of offload some of these things that aren't high value and I'm not going to be good at it, and someone else could do it better? And maybe that's a sales, like a researcher in some way if I'm of a prospect or a prospecting team. Maybe that's call coaching or demo coaching or some other coaching by not the manager, by someone else. So again, bigger companies tend to have this already, like training support, but most companies don't. Yeah. And it's like it's kind of tight. There's lots of ways you can implement these kinds of ideas without spending money, without having to hire someone. And again, at Salesforce, I had at some point 15 people, but even when I had a smaller team, I would ask the team for help. One of them was, it was so boring to me to train new people, because there's a time we were hiring lots of people. I was hiring people in my team constantly and promoting them. And it was just boring. It was so boring. And so, but some of the newer, younger reps who had good experience, like they enjoyed teaching new ones because it was still new to them, and they got to hone their skills. And like
it's much more exciting for them.
They're like, oh, I get to teach someone, and so everybody wins that way.
You split your job, and everybody like this.
Yeah, it's like
and you also, you kind of find new potential leadership just right there, just by doing that.
Yeah, everybody wins.
Yeah.
So the only things in a way usually kind of like lack of you don't necessarily think about it, kind of habits, and sometimes like is it kind of weird to ask people about this, or is it embarrassing, or maybe no one really wants to do it, or and if you're on a really small team, if there's only one of you, two of you, you just kind of try do your best to partner up and kind of tackle the things you can be best at, and just keep communicating.
Yeah, I think communicating
like
will be a key.
Yeah.
Almost like. But
I'm bringing it back to the kids.
Yeah. But I think, well, you mentioned a list of 15 things that a manager, a sales manager.
I made that number up.
I mean,
it might be 8.
Of course,
might be
I'm
9,
not going to ask you
yeah.
to list the 15. If it's 14, I say, hey, Aaron, you said 15.
Exactly.
No. But another challenge that we see all the time is streamline. I mean, try to align prospection, sales, CS, I mean, customer success, as we call here. I mean, how is the best way or a direction that you can give for sales managers that have to look at this perspective? I mean, for the process a little linear.
You know, I know a lot of people struggle with this. I'm not sure why it seems like such a struggle. So I think, again, if you're thinking about prospecting and the handoffs involved from prospecting to sales and sales to customer success, usually you want to bring the idea, either the team that's coming next or the idea of it in early. So if I'm prospecting, pretty early, I'll say, hey, I'm a prospector, I'm part of a team, or I'm whatever my label is, I'm do the first conversations, I'm part of a team, this goes well, I'll bring in my senior person to go into pricing, go into X, Y, and Z. Right? I'm kind of here to make sure you're talking to the right people and you get oriented and so on. All right, so then you bring in the senior person, the salesperson. The salesperson, we're going through the sales cycle. All right, let's get to the point, might be on the demo, might be a proposal. How this works is we go through, if this all works good, we sign the papers, and then your kickoff and so on will be with the customer success team or whatever the label is. And before you sign, we might even bring one of them in to sort of meet them if it's a bigger deal. And then you just, between the teams, you just you talk and you say, here's when we introduce each other and here's how it works. And I don't know.
Yeah.
People struggle with this a lot. And it's simple but not simple.
Yeah, no, and I got a question on top of this, because the way you describe is perfect. That's the way it is. But do you hear the same question outside of the U.S. or, I mean, you hear more in the U.S. or outside of the U.S.? Because I think because we're so much relational, I would say.
It's everywhere.
Everywhere?
I think it's what people don't appreciate. Either people are just busy and they're like, hey, we're just trying to automate stuff, and they're just not thinking about, from the customer's perspective, in terms of a smooth handoff and like making the relationship build over time. They're just not thinking customer perspective, I think. They're trying to be more efficient and faster. And what I hear is, a million years ago when I first started, there'd be people saying, hey, I want my sales reps to be building a relationship from day one. I don't want to have to pass it off. And I'm thinking, okay, so that's assuming that all your salespeople are doing a great job building relationships with all their customers, which is not true.
Which is not,
that's
absolutely.
Not true.
Yeah.
They're not responding to prospects. They're only talking to customers that are trying to sign something, and they're ignoring a lot. So that's not true. You can get you can build better relationships with if you specialize in the way that fits your customers and your team. That way, if they're in the prospecting stage or the lead stage or evaluation stage, they have someone there who's like dedicated to get them what they need. When they're considering purchasing, they've got someone dedicated to help them through that, the salesperson. And once they're a customer, they've got people who are dedicated to that step. So as long as you kind of coordinate and you're thinking about the customer and how to make it smooth for them, it's not.
Yeah.
You can do it. It's not.
Absolutely.
It's not. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But you said one thing that caught my attention a lot, because you said sometimes the company is more worried about automation and make it faster, and is not. Absolutely clueless what's going on the other side. The journey that the customer is passing, it's not even considered. When you put that mindset, let's say, in the equation, now I get it. Now it makes total sense for you.
Yeah, I think it's, you need people to be able to step back and think, okay, we've got the sales process and we've got 4 steps. And usually fewer steps are better, but it all depends on, more complex processes, you need more steps. Yeah. But you know what? Because we're having such a low win rate or a low qualification rate, or there's some step in our sales process where we're seeing too much of a drop-off, we might actually get better results by slowing things down and adding a 5th step. Where at the beginning, where we have an extra step of getting a buy-in of more, a group call or group demo or executive call early, which might be hard to do and take longer. But if we get them in early, then everything else gets better later. So it might look like it's slower, but when you look at the big picture on the amount of revenue coming in and win rates, it's actually better. So you need someone who can step back, and there's the automation faster great, that actually is useful, but someone else who is more of the big picture problem solving, which is, when is faster better? When is slower better? Right? Sometimes I've had experience where people who are coming in and trying to buy right away are not a good fit, right? Because they're desperate. They haven't really thought through what's the right solution, and do they have everything in place, and they often just don't work out. So sometimes slower is better, sometimes faster is better.
Yeah, no, it's great that you brought this point, because ideally, when you were in sales, you saw customers coming ready to buy, ready to sign. My God, it's a dream.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that it's going to stay. And I remember when I saw the book the first time.
Yeah, or maybe they sign, then they churn out in 30 days.
And all the effort that you make, that's cost. And you lose money. Looks like you're going to make a lot of money because you're going to stay, but it's not.
Yep.
Lembrando que esse é um podcast oferecido pela Zoho CRM, um software de gestão do relacionamento com o cliente ideal para empresas médias e de grande porte. Com preços acessíveis e uma ampla gama de recursos, o Zoho CRM é a ferramenta ideal para líderes de vendas que querem trabalhar de forma mais inteligente e com processos mais eficientes. Experimente gratuitamente em zoho.com/CRM ou clique no link na descrição desse vídeo. Agora vamos embora para o podcast.
Yeah, and especially for the smaller the customers on average that you sell to, right? Because in general, the bigger the customers you sell to, the longer they'll stay. The longer to sign up, the longer to stay. The smaller the customers, the faster to sign up, but faster to leave. And I think it's when you're growing and you're selling to lots of small customers and you're getting into a new area, it's easy to get excited about all these new customers, but then a year later, you get hit with all the churn problems. So, you're still looking at the big picture.
Yeah.
And I realize sometimes you need to have all the problems first before you can get the big picture. It's like kind of like, children and health and relationships.
Absolutely.
And, you get smarter because of the problems. You can't avoid them without avoiding, everything, living.
Yeah.
Let me ask something about the companies. You made 2 books. We already told, change the world. But the problem already we have in the companies is we want to make predictable, but we want to make the change of the market. How can I make the balance between both the market and my company be predictable?
So are you talking about including changing which market you sell to?
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't know. It's hard to say because changing markets is you can't get everything working all at the same time. You can't have to get one thing working before you get the next. So first you have to get your product working before you can really get sales working in a manual way. And you usually have to get sales working in a manual way to get it working in a predictable way. And so let's say that you have an existing business and you're trying to get into a new market. It might be you've been selling to banks, now you're going to sell to hospitals. It's just really understanding, stepping back and realizing, okay, what are the things that have worked in selling so far for us? Realizing some of those things will translate to the new market. It might be a new geography too. It might be a new industry. But it's very easy. Usually what people forget about going into a new market is, do you have case studies and examples of that new market yet? Because trust, especially, again, the busier the world gets, the more people have a shorter attention span to look like, well, do you have any customers like me? Because that's their shortcut to understand, is this relevant? It's kind of like on Amazon or e-commerce sites when you're looking at ratings. You're like, does it have high ratings or low ratings? Like that's an easy way to kind of filter out stuff that you don't care about. Do you have customers like me? And also I think companies underestimate the need of people for them to see customers like them. Okay, great, you have lots of big banks, but I'm a hospital, and the company selling to big banks is like, well, we're this amazing company, we've got all these big banks, what's your problem? And it's easy to have too much confidence, maybe even arrogance, and forget that the people in the new market are they don't really know you or they don't trust you yet. And you might have great technology, might be better, but they're, especially in risk-averse industries. So in other words, it's going back a bit to what they call beginner's mind in a new industry or new country, and it's hard to let go of your old beliefs or like predispositions, and to come at it like a new, from really a new place. And to like, we have to really earn this. I think that's the main problem. And then once you can earn, again, those first few companies in the new market, you know, you have to get a few there and then you have to get some more before you have a chance of making it predictable. And it always just takes longer than people want. It just always does. So, executives, you know, as humans.
Yeah, but I mean, going back to family and all those things and the life and the changes that we have, one thing is when we decided to change the market, but the other thing, which I think happens even more, is the market changed without our decision.
Yeah, like a pandemic, like something.
For example,
Yeah,
others.
Yeah, that was a weird time. Everyone just scrambling. But I think that kind of thing is more likely to happen in the future. Just kind of chaotic events as the world is more connected.
Yep.
And it's not so much that there's more of those things, it's when those challenges happen, they spread around the world faster. So I think, again, if you go back to like how people work, when there's a lot of stress and uncertainty or a lack of trust or a lack of a relationship, their openness or kind of like their ability to process new things is a lot smaller. So again, whether there's a like new market, they don't know you, a pandemic, like, there's some fundamental, I don't know, maybe Elon Musk got first principles, but their openness or like mental processing power is a lot smaller. And so you have to rethink that, which is how do we get to know people and start to build a relationship or make this work when we have a much smaller window of their attention. So that might be again, through free trials, more case studies, going in person to places, having influencers. There's lots of ways that you can do that. And also while you're rethinking maybe like what worked in our past or our current market may or may not work in this next one. So again, going back to beginner's mind, if we have to approach this from scratch, like how do we approach this? And taking less for granted.
I love the concept that you bring about the principles, because the role is going to change more and more.
Yep.
And much faster. But if you can go
Be
back
ready.
to that principles and keep your open mind, as you said, man, you can.
Yeah, and your confidence, because
thrive.
I think you get to a certain age, it's easier now. I'm 50, 51, about to be 52, but as you have more experience, something that you get, I don't think I didn't have the same way, and I don't see people as is it confidence. Okay, we'll get through this somehow. Yes, with entrepreneurs, right? At some point, you kind of hope, I hope we get through this, or we will somehow, and then later, you're like, actually, you always get through it somehow. Whether it's how you thought it would be, probably not, but you get through it somehow, so it gives you more confidence to deal with the drama and changes that are coming. I believe there'll be more of it.
Yeah, it was good that you brought that, because you were in the dinner with Thiago Muniz, your partner here in Brazil.
Yeah, my Portuguese brain.
Yeah.
calls himself.
And he mentioned exactly just what you said. He said, I was talking to Aaron. He said, it's going to work not the way you think, but it's going to work another way. We're going to make it work around.
The confidence.
I tell that my family constantly, because everybody I know people want to feel safe. They want to know next year things will look like this. In 2 years, it'll look like that. And in 3 years, you don't know. Like, nobody knows. It's crazy.
No one have the control for this. Yeah, something happen. You need to be like optimistic.
No. In fact, I tell my wife, I'm like, if I feel like, honest to God, if I can envision something happening in the future in a certain way, or like some solutions to a problem in some way, like it's for sure not going to happen that way. It never, ever works out the way I think it will. Like, it never does. So it's like, okay, no, all these 3 scenarios of how this, that, or the other, either how we'll move or how we'll do money or how we'll do business. Like, all I know is it's not going to happen like any of those things. And you could hate, like, I have a 20-year-old who's like, no, Dad, stop putting out bad vibes. She's in music and, you don't know if it's going to take you a year or 20 years and she's very talented. And she's, stop putting out bad vibes. I'm not putting that. How is that bad? That just just because you're not hearing what you want to hear, which is you're going to be successful by 22 and so on. I don't know. Like,
it's good to hear that, but
maybe you will. I don't know. You don't know. And if it doesn't happen by then, so what? Really, like what? Who cares? People get so attached because we want to feel safe. we're safety-seeking creatures, but I think as you develop the sense that the best way to be safe is through your own confidence in yourself and the people you know and your team and your family and relationships. That's the best place to feel safe, not by having a certain amount of money or living in a certain area or a certain, like number of Instagram followers or whatever else.
Yeah, because all of this you have zero control on it.
Yeah, and maybe you have it, maybe you don't. Who knows what's going to happen.
Great. Well, Aaron, thank you very much. I mean, it was great to talk to you. Cassio, you want to ask another?
No. I will compliment you. Thank you for.
Yeah, muito obrigado.
Muito obrigado.
That was a good one.
All right.
Basically, we can go back to Portuguese now and record everything in Portuguese since you were ready. No way, just kidding.
I'm ready.
So, go ahead. Okay, so Aaron, thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here and have the opportunity to learn directly from you. It was good to learn about sales, of course, but the way I see it was much more than sales. It was about life, about principles, and about having a mentality that regardless of what we do every day, man, keep consistency and know that what you're planning is not what's going to happen, but we're going to go.
Something's going to happen with the way you want it to, but no. I get the feelings I want, right? But not the way I want them.
Great. Cassio?
Great quote this, and thank you one more time. It's so interesting, these things. Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Para você que está acompanhando esse podcast, agora a gente volta para o português. Eu queria te agradecer muito pela participação, pela troca que a gente teve aqui com o Aaron e espero que ele tenha contribuído para que você possa ter uma vida melhor, que venda mais e que tenha mais resultado e que esse resultado seja dentro do seu controle, baseado nos fundamentos de fato do que você pode ter algum controle na vida e esperando sempre o melhor. Lembrando, esse podcast é um oferecimento da Zoho CRM. Então, para saber mais desse software para controlar a sua operação comercial, tem milhares de benefícios e features, acesse zoho.com/CRM e a gente se vê no próximo episódio. Muito obrigado. Show.